The Dutton Ranch was never supposed to survive this long. John Dutton is gone, the enemies are closer than ever, and the land that once stood as an untouchable kingdom is now wide open for attack. But against all odds, the story is not ending. It is evolving. And this time, the fight belongs to Beth and Rip. Yellowstone didn't fade out quietly. It passed the fire forward. And now, the Dutton Ranch is officially here. Yellowstone ended the way it always promised it would, not with peace, but with consequences. John Dutton's death didn't close a chapter. It ripped the book in half. For decades, he was the shield, the name that kept predators at bay, the force that made powerful people think twice before crossing the ranch. Without him, the Dutton legacy stands exposed. The sequel series, The Dutton Ranch, begins exactly at that breaking point. There is no time jump that softens the blow and no emotional reset that makes things easier. Beth and Rip inherit everything at once: the land, the enemies, the guilt, and the responsibility. The ranch is still standing, but it feels heavier than ever, like it could collapse under one wrong decision. Beth Dutton is no longer fighting from the shadows. She is the face of the ranch now, and that changes everything. Her strength has always been her sharp mind and her refusal to back down, but leadership demands more than destruction. Every move she makes now carries consequences that affect lives beyond her own. She can no longer afford to burn bridges without thinking about who might be standing on the other side. That internal conflict is where the new story finds its power. Beth is still dangerous, still ruthless, but now she must learn restraint, and for someone like her, that might be the hardest battle of all. Rip Wheeler steps into a role he never asked for, but was always being shaped toward. He has spent his entire life protecting the ranch with his fists and his loyalty, following John's word without question. Now, there is no one above him to give orders. Every threat that appears is his to face, every mistake his to carry. The ranch hands look to him not just as muscle, but as direction. And Rip is forced to confront something he has avoided for years: the idea that strength alone may not be enough to hold this place together anymore. At the center of this new era stands Carter. The finale made one thing clear: he is not just a kid they saved, he is the future they're fighting for. The sequel leans heavily into this idea. Carter represents what the Dutton name could become if it survives long enough. But raising him on a ranch soaked in violence and sacrifice raises uncomfortable questions. Can Beth and Rip give him a better path when their own lives were built on pain and blood? Or is the Dutton Ranch destined to shape him the same way it shaped them? The land itself feels different now. The Dutton Ranch is massive, powerful, and rich with history, but history can also attract vultures. Without John Dutton at the center, rivals sense weakness. Old enemies reemerge, new ones arrive quietly, and deals that were once unthinkable suddenly feel possible. The sequel makes it clear that the threats are no longer just about land grabs. They are legal, political, and personal. The fight has shifted from open war to calculated pressure, where one wrong signature or one public mistake could cost the ranch everything. What makes the Dutton Ranch feel dangerous is the absence of safety. Yellowstone always gave us the sense that no matter how bad things got, John Dutton was still there, pulling strings behind the scenes. That safety net is gone. Beth and Rip are building something new on unstable ground, and every step forward feels uncertain. This is not a victory lap for surviving characters. It is a test of whether the Dutton legacy deserves to exist without the man who built it. And that is only the beginning. As the Dutton Ranch moves forward, one truth becomes impossible to ignore: power never stays vacant for long. John Dutton's death created a silence that powerful people immediately rushed to fill. Where there was once fear, there is now curiosity. Where there was loyalty, there is now negotiation. Beth and Rip are no longer dealing with enemies who attack head-on. They are facing people who smile in public and strike in private. Investors, politicians, rival landowners, and corporate interests begin circling the ranch, each one convinced that the Duttons are weaker without their patriarch. And that belief makes them reckless. Beth understands this game better than anyone, but even she feels the difference. Before, she fought knowing her father's shadow loomed behind her. Now, every meeting, every deal, and every threat lands directly on her shoulders. She is forced to evolve from a weapon into a strategist. The series shows her navigating boardrooms, courtrooms, and quiet backroom conversations where the real damage is done. The danger no longer comes with a gun drawn. It comes with paperwork, leverage, and secrets that could destroy the ranch without spilling a drop of blood. Beth is still ruthless, but now she must be precise. One wrong move doesn't just hurt an enemy. It puts Rip, Carter, and the entire ranch at risk. Rip's battle is different, but just as intense. The ranch itself is changing, and so are the people working on it. Familiar faces fade into the background, replaced by new hands with unknown loyalties. Rip is forced to decide who belongs and who doesn't, knowing that trust can no longer be given freely. Every new hire is a gamble. Every unfamiliar face could be a spy, a plant, or a future traitor. For a man who values loyalty above all else, this constant uncertainty eats away at him. He is no longer just enforcing rules. He is protecting a fragile balance that could break at any moment. The arrival of new figures only adds to the pressure. Powerful rivals step forward, people who don't fear the Dutton name because they never answer to it. Some come with money, others with influence, and a few with a history that ties directly into the land itself. These are not villains who announce themselves loudly. They are patient, methodical, and confident that time is on their side. They believe Beth and Rip will eventually crack under the weight of leadership, and they're willing to wait. Carter's role becomes more complicated as the walls close in. He is growing up fast, watching how Beth and Rip handle threats, stress, and sacrifice. The ranch is shaping him every day, teaching him lessons he may not be ready for. Beth wants him strong, but not broken. Rip wants him prepared, but not hardened. The tension between protection and preparation becomes one of the most emotional threads in the series. They are fighting to save a future while slowly realizing that the fight itself might change the very thing they are trying to protect. What makes this chapter of the story so gripping is that there are no clean victories. Every win comes with a cost. Save the land, lose an ally. Secure a deal, expose a weakness. Push back against one enemy, invite another. The Dutton Ranch is no longer just about survival. It is about endurance. About how long Beth and Rip can stand before the pressure forces them to choose between legacy and family. And the most dangerous part is the enemies are no longer outside the gates. They're already inside the system, waiting for the moment when Beth and Rip finally make a mistake. By the time the Dutton Ranch reaches its most intense moments, it becomes clear that this story is not about saving land. It is about deciding what the land is worth anymore. Beth and Rip slowly realize that protecting the ranch at all costs may demand sacrifices they are no longer willing to make. The world around them is changing faster than John Dutton ever had to face. Power no longer comes only from owning land. It comes from controlling narratives, influencing public opinion, and surviving in a system designed to crush those who refuse to evolve. The ranch stands as a symbol of resistance, but symbols attract attention, and attention brings danger. Beth begins to question the rules she has lived by for so long. Her instincts still push her toward destruction, but leadership forces her to think in terms of legacy. Every choice she makes now shapes how the Dutton name will be remembered. As attacks grow more personal, Beth is faced with a haunting question. Is becoming more like her father the only way to honor him, or is breaking away from his methods the only way to truly protect what he left behind? This internal struggle gives her character a depth that feels both powerful and fragile. The strongest person in the room is finally forced to confront her own limits. Rip, meanwhile, faces a reckoning of his own. Violence has always been his language, but the threats surrounding the ranch no longer play by those rules. Some enemies cannot be fought in the open. Some battles cannot be won with fists or fear. Rip must learn to lead in ways that challenge everything he believes about strength and loyalty. For the first time, he is forced to ask himself whether the ranch is shaping him or whether he still has the power to shape the ranch. That uncertainty follows him into every decision, every confrontation, and every quiet moment when the weight of leadership becomes unbearable. Carter stands at the crossroads of all these conflicts. He watches, learns, and absorbs everything. The ranch is no longer just his home. It is his education. And the lessons are brutal. The series makes it clear that Carter's future will define whether the Dutton legacy continues or finally ends. Will he inherit a world built on survival through force, or will he become something different entirely? Beth and Rip want to guide him, but they are haunted by the fear that the ranch will demand too much from him, just as it did from everyone before. As pressure mounts, the story builds toward a truth Yellowstone always hinted at but never fully confronted. No one wins forever. The land remembers every sacrifice made in its name, and eventually, it asks for something in return. The Dutton Ranch is not just fighting enemies. It is fighting time, progress, and the slow erosion of an old way of life. The question is no longer who will take the ranch. The question is whether the ranch can survive without destroying the people trying to save it. In the end, the Dutton Ranch does not promise peace. It promises a choice. Hold on to the past and risk losing everything, or adapt and risk losing the soul of the legacy. That tension is what drives this sequel forward. The fight is still there. The stakes are higher. And the future of Yellowstone has never felt more uncertain.